Hetepu, Assalamu alaikum, Namaste, Haru Nefer. This is Qesankh Ma'akeperu with another exciting video for you. And in this video, we're going to talk about Nicki Minaj speaking at the UN and siding with President Trump. But before I broach that subject, I want you to hit the like button on this video. If this is your first time to my channel, hit the subscribe bell to get notifications on when I go live and when I upload recorded videos. If you want to know more about my spiritual teachings, you can become a Patreon supporter for as little as $1, $5, or $20 per month. There's no obligation and you can cancel anytime. As a supporter, you'll get exclusive access to instructional videos on the esoteric, on the spiritual, videos that will teach you how to do proper breathing exercises for health and longevity, how to meditate properly, how to put together a magical amulet, how to contact spirits and the ancestors. And we also have a lot of great articles that you have access to. So become a Patreon supporter today. Last but not least, share this video with family and friends so we can get the revolution started. So, Grand Rising, Haru Nefer. Let's get right into this and talk about this. So, the Trump administration seems to have a new advocate, and that is Nicki Minaj. Now, if you remember, she was not a supporter of Trump. So this is kind of odd. And not only that, she is speaking at the UN to talk about the persecution of Christians, and an issue that Trump spoke about recently. So she's aligning with the Trump administration and with Christians in Nigeria, because apparently they're being persecuted, you know. Now, I talked a lot about this before, and the idea that our society, the mainstream white media oligarchy, uses rappers as representatives of the black community. But not only that, they tend to have these rappers speak on subject matters that they're ill-equipped to talk about and have no experience under their belts when it comes to these issues. And Nicki Minaj has spoken about issues, you know. Fat Joe has spoken about issues that they have no right to speak about, because many times and most often these rappers are uneducated. They have poor oratory skills, and they just don't know anything about anything besides music. And for the Trump administration and other organizations who continually put these rappers in front of the limelight to speak on these issues and to use them, really speaks a lot about, you know, what these people and organizations think about you, black people. See, they think you're like one monolithic group, that you're all aspiring rappers and musicians, that you're not intelligent, that you don't deserve better representation, better speakers. See, this is what it's all about. It's media manipulation, subversive tactics to mind control you, to make you think that, you know, you have certain representation that's out there fighting for you when you don't. Nicki Minaj doesn't know anything about anything. She's just a paid informant. She's used to degrade you, to demoralize you. It is an insult to have her speak before the UN, to talk about a subject that really, where did this subject come from? because there's so many more things going on that need to be addressed. The government shutdown, EBTs, you know, joblessness, things of that nature. But yet she wants to come out and speak about the Nigerians who are Christians being persecuted. And that is not even a real issue, by the way. Christian Nigerians are not being persecuted. That's a lie. That's fabricated. But that's how the media manipulation works. You come up with this lie, you get a prominent person in entertainment to speak for it, and then you allow it to go viral. And then maybe you throw money at it to support it. I want you to understand that you deserve better, that you deserve not to be treated like an idiot and have some rapper continually speak about issues. There are intelligent black men and women who have gone to school, gone to study journalism, have degrees in journalism, that should be afforded the opportunity to speak at the UN. Malcolm X talked about going before the UN for human rights violations, to put the United States on trial for human rights violations. He never had the opportunity to do that. And the first chance that Nicki Minaj gets to go up to the UN, what does she do? Talk about a subject that doesn't really exist. I got an opportunity recently to check out Tone Talks. If you don't know about Tone Talks, check it out. Here is a clip where he talks about this exact issue and how it's a fabricated issue. Let's take a quick look at this.
I also wanted to briefly touch this as well. How many people in the chat know about Nicki Minaj at the UN? As I understand it, she's not well educated, and she's at the UN talking about Christian Nigerians. In the chat, have you got a chance to see her speak at the UN? Nicki Minaj is set to speak at the United Nations on behalf of the Trump administration. Well, this is a collab nobody saw coming. Nicki Minaj is partnering with the Trump administration to address the United Nations. The Anaconda... Woo, come on, American lady. You can support the channel, tonetalks.net, share this video, subscribe. The Anaconda rapper will reportedly join the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Mike Waltz, to deliver remarks Tuesday in New York City, spotlighting the violence committed against Christians in Nigeria. So she gonna speak to the Christians in Nigeria. Okay. Well, Nicki Minaj be knowing stuff. Maybe she said something intelligent. Let's listen to her.
I'd like to thank President Trump for prioritizing this issue. I would like to thank...
I want everybody to understand, when speaking, words are important. For those people that are standing on, well, she wasn't there for Trump. When you start off with that level of appreciation and thanks, you're speaking for Trump.
President Trump for prioritizing this issue and for his leadership on the global stage in calling for urgent action to defend Christians in Nigeria, to combat extremism, and to bring a stop to violence against those who simply want to exercise their natural...
She ain't even speaking. She just well, you could have just released this paper. Do you see the paper in her hand, everybody? I don't need her to read. I need her to speak.
And calling for urgent action to defend Christians in Nigeria, to combat extremism, and to bring a stop to violence against those who simply want to exercise their natural right to freedom of religion or belief.
Have you listened to Nicki Minaj's music? We talking about Christianity. All right. I ain't gonna even get into that today, but what I will go to is a Rolling Stone article that faith is under attack. Nicki Minaj spreads misleading information at the United Nations. Nicki's claim of extremism against Nigerian Christians like Trump's aren't backed by any data. Okay, so who told her, who made her the spokesperson, the rapper that raps about sex and debauchery, the spokesperson for this message, and then she go down there and she gonna thank Trump?
All right. So the question is, where is Nicki Minaj coming from? She comes out of the woodworks to not only back Donald Trump when she was against him in the election, not only that, to speak on an issue that's not a real issue. So what's going on with that? None of this makes any sense. But it makes sense in the sense that this is what has been going on. You can see a pattern to where mainstream media continually props up ignorant people to speak on our behalf. People who have no education, no history in the movement. Nicki Minaj represents decadence. She represents the worst of black female culture. Sexually exploitive. She drugged men and robbed them. This is coming from her own mouth. Let me explain to you. If she was really standing up for an issue that needs to be addressed, why didn't she talk about how the Christians persecuted Nigerians who were practicing traditional African religions? How Muslims invaded Africa and enslaved the population and forced them to convert to Islam. Yes, that's true. That's factual. How the missionaries went into Africa with the agenda to convert the entire continent into Christians and to exploit the continent for its natural resources. That to use the native people for slave labor. Why does she talk about King Leopold and what he did in the Congo, the murder of millions of African people? Why does she talk about how Christianity has a history of starting wars, of slavery, of invading and colonizing? Christianity has done this. That's right. Why does she talk about that? That is a major issue that's still going on. The spread of Christianity and the suppression of traditional African religions. How the media supports the idea of if you're a Christian, you're of God. But if you practice voodoo, Santeria, Yoruba, then you're evil. You're a pagan. Why doesn't she speak to issues like that? That how we need to recognize traditional African religions as legitimate African religions or legitimate world religions. Not just Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. Why didn't she talk about that? No, they don't want to talk about that. No. Because the powers that be have an agenda. That's why they picked Nicki Minaj and not any intelligent black people to address the issue in an intelligent way. Because then you would flip the script. You would see the damage that Christianity has done in invading peaceful and indigenous people. Christopher Columbus was just one incident in many. Christians have blood on their hands. And she's siding with Christians in Nigeria? Are you kidding me? We need to know our history so that when someone like Nicki Minaj takes the podium and speak, we can push back on her. Here's a book that everyone needs to get and have in their household, and it's a book by the late Dr. Benjamin Jamaikanim called African Origins of the Major Western Religions. This book takes you into detail about how the major religions of today had their start in Africa, so that we can give this whole issue some context and not just say that Christians are persecuted in Nigeria, which again is not true. There's no data to support that. There's no foundation in that. But there's a lot of data and foundation to support the fact that traditional African religions in Nigeria have been persecuted, have been suppressed. And what you're seeing in Nigeria, if you go to Nigeria, you'll see that they, as Dr. Clark said, the great Dr. John Henry Clark has said, that they have become a bunch of Jesus freaks, walking around carrying statues and images of white Jesus. Now, where would they have gotten those things from? Oh, from the colonizers? Why doesn't Nicki Minaj speak on that? I want to thank you for tuning in today. If this message resonates with you, please donate to the channel. This is Qesankh Ma Keparu, son of Ma'at and Tahuti. My aunt is the beautiful goddess Heteru. Until my next video, I'm in Ra.